Baseball Theory Edition. We'll get into that a little bit later. But I'm Jeff.
I'm Tom.
I'm Kim.
And this is the Three Old Reds Fans podcast coming to you from Studio 82. Down the street from our good friends at Beans in the heart of Cedarville, the famous birthplace and final resting place of Reds pitching legend Bumpus Jones. Now, if you subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app or website or Spotify, thanks for being one of the most loyal Reds fans ever. And we are back up to a 5-star rating on the iTunes Apple Podcast app. Bet you didn't know that, did you?
I think that's because all three of us went out and gave ourselves ratings.
We were sabotaged.
We were sabotaged at one point, but we'd love more ratings and reviews. So we got back up to 10.
And the person who sabotaged us was the one you were thinking of having on this show. I think.
Yeah, we might still do that. But so we got a review by somebody called Mr. Cedarville. So who do you think that might be?
Dick Walker.
No, it could be our friend that we were talking about, but it could be somebody else. And he said, "Listen today for the first time. The show is outstanding!" Exclamation point.
Wow.
So there you go. There's our first written review on the Apple Podcast.
And you don't know who it was?
Oh, I have suspicions.
Thank you, Mr. Cedarville.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Cedarville, whoever you are. If you actually listen again, thank you very much. So, we'd love for you to leave a review. We'll read it on the next show, just like we did that. If you're not subscribing, get with it. If you really like us, again, go to the site on podbean.com, become a patron to help us with our equipment fund. That will make this show better than it already is.
We could get high-def cameras to zoom in on our faces.
Yeah, well, would that make us better?
Let's not do that.
Let's not do that? Okay, all right. So you can do it like $1 a month, That's all. That's all we ask. Just a little love. Anyway, so this team, last time we had a chance to get together was before opening day. And we've sort of had 2 seasons since then, in a way, right?
Yes.
1-8. Now we're 11-14 after a 10-6 run, and we're recording this on Saturday, April. What's the day? 26th.
27th.
27th.
Just afternoon.
Yeah. Before the 2:15 game today in St. Louis. So they are 11-14, 10-6 since that start. They've won 6 of 8. So why is this turnaround? What's happened? Why all of a sudden are we winning games?
Bats have woken up a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we mentioned last night that they've scored 4 runs or more. They have one game where they only scored 1, but in the last 5 games they've been averaging 4 runs.
Yeah.
So I think you average 4 runs, you should win most of your games.
Well, especially with the pitching that we've had.
That's right.
Last year, 4 runs wouldn't have cut it. Last couple years, 4 runs wouldn't have cut it, but this year it does. And schedule, I think, has not been kind to the Reds so far. July will be the first month where they have more home games than road games.
Yeah, the announcers have been talking about that.
In the good side of things, that means the second half of the season will be better. Will be
Should
kinder
right?
to us. Yeah, we've had 2 West Coast trips out of the way, or 1. They go to Oakland and San Francisco next week. They have a little 2-game shootout to L.A. to play the Angels for 2 games in late June. They do have a Seattle-Arizona trip in September. But in September, it's an even schedule, 13 home, 13 away. So, should be evening up, and they're playing good. They're playing some pretty good ball right now. So, what were your, Kim, when it was 1-8, as that was happening, what were your feelings? Did you feel like, oh, this is just early, let's not worry about it? Or did you feel like this team we're headed definitely for another bad season? What'd you think?
Would not say the latter. I wasn't. That wasn't my emotional response. There was this is tough, 1-8. And it's easy to say, here we go again. And if I would have said that, it wasn't again repeating that I think we'd have what we had last year, in part because the starting pitching has been so strong. Mm-hmm. And then the defense has been a little shaky. Now, the past 2 nights, guys have shown up with gloves and actually had some good plays in the outfield and the infield. The relief pitching is improving. That's hurt us a little bit. But even taking out last night and taking out the 1 game against Miami, which our run differential was really positive now because of those 2 games.
Yeah, those 2 games are 26-1.
Yeah, it is. And I sit there and okay, our hitting is still not where we need to be by any means. I texted y'all last night. when Puig finally broke the Mendoza line. Mm-hmm. So you look at the box score and you see our top 4 guys are now. I think Peraza was the highest at around 253 or something.
I just looked it up. Our highest is Suarez at 241.
Okay.
As far as everyday guys who qualify.
And we do not have a hitter in the top 50 in the National League.
Right. So, hitting has been, my magic number was 270 for Shebs. If he could get to 170, we'd kind of be happy
He's
right
like
now.
130 something.
And you feel bad for him because he loves the game, and you just think he's a great teammate. Mm-hmm. But right now, guys who we are counting on to be really strong hitters aren't there yet. Hopefully they will. And also went into my thinking, not Senzel so much because we didn't have him yet. We haven't had him yet. But Scooter. I did not realize we would miss Scooter that much. Mm-hmm. His not only his productivity, but I think his presence is.
He's a little fiery, isn't he?
Well, he may
plays
be,
with passion.
Yeah,
but it's like if he's there, there's a presence about him, a leadership presence that you have with Votto, but Votto doesn't say much. But I think Scooter does talk a little more.
I think he does too.
I'm seeing Winker is taking on a role.
Winker seems to be, doesn't he?
Taking on a role. He's very comfortable and very balanced. The other night when they pinch hit for him, you saw him, and Jeff, I think you tweeted or texted this. You could tell he was upset, but he went out there, and when Irvin drew the walk, he was pointing at him and cheering him on, and so that encourages me, things we haven't had in the past. So just my thinking, Jeff, to close it up was, let's just get through this.
Yeah. Well, I think you make a point about vocal leadership because I think, you hear people talk about, well, he leads by example. Well, that only goes so far. You got to have vocal leaders. You got to have guys who, when they talk, everybody pays attention. And Joey probably has that a little bit, but it's not enough. And I think on a baseball team with 25 guys, you need more than one guy.
Can I say this? You want someone to galvanize the team, right?
Yeah.
Yasiel Puig is one that we talked about last year during the offseason. You remember Jim? We really don't want him. But did he or did he not galvanize this team at Pittsburgh?
I think so. Yeah.
I think
it's possible.
A beautiful painting, a beautiful renaissance.
Did you see the shirt?
Yep.
Yeah.
But did he not galvanize? And
it's
that
possible.
is him being quote unquote vocal. So I'm agreeing with you.
It could be.
We talked about that 90 team, how fiery they were. Right, and how that competitiveness, you need that to win. So, maybe Puig's bringing a little bit of that. Problem is, we've talked about before, he can be there one day and gone the next, as far as his...
Yeah, he didn't look happy when Shebler took a fly ball away from him last night, but, he'll get over that, hopefully. He homered after that, so now he feels better.
Okay, speaking
he homered all right. That was a bomb.
Everyone did, right?
Yeah, that was a bomb. Yeah.
Speaking of hitting, who do you think, I'm trying to lead you, who do you think is last in the National League in hitting as far as a team?
Well, probably the Reds.
You would think the Reds.
But maybe not anymore.
The Marvins are the Marlins. Sorry. The Marlins are on the bottom.
Yeah, well, they're bad.
But the Reds are not in the bottom 4.
But the pitching stats, you look at that, in the top 5 on so many.
I got some numbers here. You got a couple?
I'm just going to say the Reds
got
are
some interesting stuff.
11th out of 15 in the league in hitting.
In batting average?
It's just overall.
What are they batting right now? 208? That's what I had.
208.
And I wonder what they were before last night.
San Diego, San Francisco, Pittsburgh, and Miami.
What were they? Where were they ranked before last night?
Miami's batting 186. I don't know. They got up over 200 a few days ago. A couple days ago, I think.
Well, even the win the other night, they only had 5 hits against the Braves, right?
Yeah. So they're 11 and 14. The interesting thing about the National League, there's only one team with a worse record than the Reds in the National League still, which is the Marlins, and they're tied with maybe the Giants or somebody at 11 and 14. Because the National League, but if they were in the American League, there's like 6 teams worse than them.
Red Sox are worse.
So the National League, there's a lot of everybody in that range of 500 within three games of 500 both ways. So it's an interesting, a lot of parity in the National League right now, I guess you could say. So their team, here's some offensive numbers as a team for you. Their slash line, 208, 280 on base, and 388 slugging.
Wow.
And their WAR as a team is negative 0.2.
Oh my!
How in the world are they 11-14 with those numbers? Right. Well, we know the answer to that, and that's pitching, which is
number one in the
number one National League is Luis Castillo at 1.23.
Yeah, and their overall ERA is 3.15
right.
as a team, which is number one in the National League.
3.15. So here, and I broke it down by starters and relievers here. I looked this up on
that's cool.
Fangraphs. So starting ERA is 3.01. They're only giving up 0.8 home runs per 9 innings. And we know last year, I'd have to look back, but I think it was like closer to 1.5. It was ridiculously high. Their strikeout rate is 26.9, so more than 1 out of 4 guys coming up to the plate are striking out, and that helps. They have a 3.3 WAR as a starting staff already in 134 innings. Last year, the whole season, over 800 innings of starters, their WAR was 5.7.
We don't even have.
They're already halfway to that, and it's still April.
We don't have all of our starters back.
Yeah, but Molly's been
solid.
More than an acceptable fill-in so far. Relief core is 336, 0.74 home runs per 9 innings. So we're not giving up home runs. When you keep the ball in the park, makes a huge difference.
Maybe it helps we haven't been a Great American very much.
Well, it could be. 23.6 K rate. They have a 1.1 WAR in 85 innings, and last year their WAR was 2.6. So
what a difference.
We're so far ahead of schedule of last year. When you look at that WAR number, that's an interesting thing.
We would not even have dreamed that the pitching would have been this good and the hitting
this bad.
Would you? None of us would have even.
That's the unpredictability nature of sports and baseball, especially. You don't. I mean, you know, certain guys in basketball are going to have certain scoring averages, right? You know, guys are going to get their. You know, the good rebounders are going to get their double rebounds. You know, their double figure rebounds a lot. You know, certain guys are going to throw for 3,000 yards, but you don't know if Joey Votto is going to hit 300. You don't know if points. It
felt like we did.
Yeah, it's unpredictable. You don't know. Who saw? What was one of the things we talked about in the offseason? The guys last year who really stepped up and made us take notice, and it's like, well, we're going to get a good year out of that guy, Peraza, and he's been terrible.
Yep.
He's had a few things here and there. He had a bomb last night. He had a big double the other night. You know, he's not hot yet, but he
did have 2 hits.
Is showing some signs of maybe he's going to snap out of this. And it'd be great. It'd be great when Scooter comes back to say, wow, we got Iglesias who's really good with the glove, and he's still hitting decently. Peraza's gotten hot. Now we got to get Scooter in the lineup. What are we going to do?
Great problems.
What are we going to do in a week to 10 days when they're going to bring him up, especially with the way Schebler's been hitting? Who's going down? Are they going to send Schebler down? Are they going to send Irvin down? They'll probably send Irvin down. I don't know what they're going to do.
I was going to ask that. How long can we go with our hitters being so bad?
Oh, it can't last much longer.
Eventually, you have to. Well, can't last, but eventually you have to make a move.
Oh yeah.
You can't. It gets into May and June.
Well, I think with what I just said, I think with Schebler struggling like he has, and Senzel being groomed to play center field, I think that's going to happen.
Is Senzel back playing yet?
Oh yeah. He started playing Tuesday.
Good.
Had a couple hits. Ran down. I saw a highlight of him running down a ball in deep center field.
Someone even tweeted the other night he grounded out to third, and his speed to first was like 4.1. So they said the comment being, if you were worried about his ankle, don't be.
Yeah, because that's good. That's a good time to first. Josh
Van Meter, right? Is it Josh Van Meter? Van Meter has been hitting the ball really well.
Right.
Well, the thing is if you're no matter how much we like Shebs and even Winker out there, eventually if they're hitting 200, you gotta do something. A minor leaguer's gonna have a shot at doing better than that.
Yeah. No matter what you've said, well, Senzel hadn't proven anything at the major leagues. I bet he can hit 140.
That's what I was gonna say. That's my point.
Yeah, exactly. So he's gonna get his shot. It's gonna happen soon. Look at all the three guys came up yesterday. 3 of the top prospects in Major League Guerrero,
Who had a great start.
Key Boom.
Who's the guy for the
Spencer,
Nationals?
Spencer Key Boom, or I don't know how you say his last name. It's an interesting name. And there was another guy that got called up somewhere too. Somebody tweeted. I saw a tweet. Is Senzel the number one prospect in the minor leagues now?
Might be,
because he was like 4 or 5 on the list overall, maybe 6, something like that. So all of a sudden, these guys getting called up there in front of him, he keeps getting higher on the list.
So could we say that in terms of pitching, really the key has been the maturation results of Molly and Castillo? Because remember, when we picked up Wood, who no results yet, Roark, and Sonny Gray, we were all saying we got number 3s at best. And we kind of were like,
we need a number
Dallas
1.
Keuchel, do you go out and spend the money? And look what this starting staff has done. Roark's a mystery, man. How that guy can struggle through 5-6 innings and give up 1 run and labors through every... The other night they're talking about him. If you looked at him, his cap... The perspiration on his cap was almost towards the crowd. And it was only in the 3rd inning.
And it's not even July.
This guy just battles, and he gets, somehow or another, his ERA is very respectable.
3.2.
Yeah,
So
and
I
that's
just look
who he
at
is.
it.
That's who he is.
Castillo, obviously, 1.23. And the other night, started out, and he was all around the plate, around 20 pitches in the first inning. He's like, And as the game wore on, he improved. And it's like you're watching this guy evolve and maturing right before your eyes.
Yeah. He's a veteran.
Molly's taking a slight, if you would, shuffle back from where he was the first 2 or 3 starts. But overall, how could you?
He's still really young.
He's still consistent. You're seeing some consistency established. Nobody's going to go out and shut people out for 6 innings every time they start. Nobody's going to hold everybody to 1 run every time they start, unless your name's Luis Castillo. Then you tend to do that. But otherwise, it's like last night. They're up 4-0. Bullpen gives up a run. Bullpens give up runs. They're allowed to do that once in a while. I mean, it happens, right? But they didn't give up the big inning.
That's what I was afraid of.
They didn't give up the big inning. They didn't just sort of all of a sudden it's a 4-3 game. Of course, the way they finished the game, it wouldn't have mattered. But but yeah, there's consistency there. There's not perfection, but there's consistency.
I think the biggest acquisition was Johnson, the pitching coach, overall.
Could be.
Because talking about Molly, last year, one thing Molly did that surprised us all at the major league level, which he had not done in the minors, was issue base on balls. And this year his walks have got to be down. And then lastly, I have to say Robert Stevenson has just
How about that?
Been lights out.
He has. So how do you guys feel about Bell's managing techniques with the way he's shuffling lineups around?
Let me give a shout out to a guy here. You nice segue. So one of our Twitter followers, Dalton, who is at Daily Dalton, he says, "What would you grade Bell so far in this season?" So, Tom, since you brought it up, what grade would you give him as a manager at this point?
So surprisingly, I would give him an A- because I feel like he's doing everything he can. Remember how he got himself thrown out, 3 times already? Twice? Okay. And, Jeff, you're more than I am, but I'm kind of an analytics guy, so I like the idea of him shuffling the lineup according to what the stats say, because over a course of 162 games, it works. You're going to have isolated nights it doesn't work, but statistics are statistics, and over 162, they're going to work. So I give him a good grade so far.
Yeah, we've seen Casali batted leadoff one night.
How about that? Was crazy.
He's got Votto batting leadoff. He had Winker at the top. He's put Winker more as the 3 now.
Winker's been down to 7.
And Winker's batted 7. Exactly. He's been pinch hit for. He's been on the bench a couple nights in a row once.
And another reason I give it a good grade is because this shuffling around could get players really frustrated and uncomfortable, right? But I don't see that.
Well, also, it gives the guys who don't normally play, it keeps them involved.
Yeah.
It keeps them fresh. Keeps them ready.
And it, you've got the depth to do it.
Yep.
Because they went out and signed Iglesias and Dietrich. And Dietrich's, I don't even think Dietrich's batting 200, but he's had a bunch of huge hits, right?
Yeah.
He's been good. Farmer's had 2 or 3 homers. He's got like 3 homers. And then one of them was a pretty big one, as I recall. And Casale gets key hits coming off the bench. And so you go 8th, 7th, 8th, 9th inning, and all of a sudden, there's Jesse Winker pitch hitting, or there's and Kemp hasn't been good, and he's hurt now. But still, you got a Matt Kemp or somebody coming in to pinch hit versus some guy who's just some guy who just some guy who's just a AAA guy who's getting his shot finally because we need a guy up here.
About Alex Blandino, didn't
and Blandino is out. So
Kim, what grade do you give Bell?
I'd say a B+. Being the analytics guy that he is, you do sit there and you look at Casale leading off, and I read that David Bell. First of all, I think he relates well with players, a team, and I think he relates well with men, adult men. These players, he texts them the lineup the day before the game, so you're ready. You don't come to the ballpark wondering. And when he texted and Casale saw that he was leading off, he texted him back and said, "Are you sure you got this right?
Is this a typo?"
Yeah, exactly. And so, communicating things that you don't normally see on the field, like that texting ahead of time, keeping guys ready, keeping guys fresh. I think he gets an A for that automatically. I am a little confused sometimes when he pinch hits guys and this, that, but you know what? As Dr. Don Callen says, no one knows the team better than the coach or the manager. Doesn't mean they make the right moves, but no one knows the team better than the coach. And you leave it to Bell. He makes moves, pitching. What was one night? Then we have 2 relief pitchers that throw 1 pitch each to a different batter or something like that.
Well, Garrett came in one night in the middle of an inning, got like the second out on 1 pitch, and he took him out.
Right. But you can't argue with 1-8 start is tough. And I hate to use cold weather, but that's tough to play in. But the argument is, well, the other team played in it too. But 1-8 start, but now we're at 11-14. I think David Bell's staying steady. He's staying the course. And we really need someone like that at the helm.
Jeff, before you go, did you hear the announcers talking last night about how before every game they have routines now where they have a hitter's analytic meeting and a pitcher's analytic meeting before every game?
Scouting report stuff.
So, do you think they've had that in the past?
Not as much. I know that pitchers meetings are pretty common. I mean, when I was talking to the Dragons pitching coach last year a lot because I was covering a lot of games there, and Hunter Green was pitching a lot, and Seth Etherton is who pitched a long time ago for a little bit for the Reds, and he's the pitching coach, and so sort of through all those interviews I began to hear about how their meetings that they have, and it's not just the guy that's starting that night. I think it's all the pitch. A lot of the starters will be in there together, or whoever's going to maybe, if there's a guy who's not going to pitch that night because he's pitched 3 nights in a row, maybe he's not in that meeting. But I think they pretty much
3 or 4 game series, so they might as well.
I think they pretty much meet at the start of a series to talk about the hitters that team has. I think they do it pretty much on a daily thing. Certainly, the guy starting that night is there talking, and they're looking those things over. Now, how much they do this with the batters, I don't know. I haven't asked that question at that level. But I know last year in Single A, they were doing these kind of pitcher meetings, and they've probably been doing them. And I don't think that's an unusual thing. Every team gets together and talks and game plans before games in other sports. But of course, baseball happens every day, so you have to have a meeting every day if you're going to do that. So.
I just got a feeling it was more than.
Yeah, I think they're doing more than they ever did.
That was my point. Yeah.
It's ramped up. There's no doubt about that.
What do you think, Jeff, about Bell?
I think I'm on that A- line. I think. I think. I thought overall, I'm like some of the stuff what Kim said. You scratch your head once in a while on a move, but like you say, Tom, not everything works every night. But if you consistently do the things you think will work, you're going to come out ahead. You at the end of a basketball game, you need a shot. You give the ball to your best player. Nobody would argue with that. He doesn't always make that shot, right? You run your best 2-point play when you need a 2-point conversion, you don't always score. But nobody's going to say, well, that was your best play? You think that's your best play?
Best play with your best players.
It just didn't happen. What can you say? You know? And so I think you do the same. You have to do the same thing in baseball. And so I think there's some of that stuff of like, you know, there's been times I'm like, I don't get that lineup. You know, there's a right-handers pitching and Winker's sitting on the bench and Kemp's playing. But that was early on. I don't think he would do that now. The way Kemp is hitting and Winker has shown some power. His average still isn't where you want it, but he is striking the ball pretty well. I think he's had some bad luck. You know, the other night somebody was pitching, and Freddie Freeman was coming up. And Freeman is a left-handed hitter, correct? Mm-hmm. And we had a right-hander in, and it's escaping me who it was. It might have been Lorenzen, and there was a guy on base. He had gotten a couple outs, and if it's not Lorenzen, I'm not sure, but I think it was. And he was pitching well, and he went to a left-hander. And I thought, you know, when Freddie Freeman's at the plate, I'm going to a left-hander. Mm-hmm. If it was the 8th place hitter, who's not a big hitter, and my right-hander's dealing, I'd probably leave him in. But when it's Freddie Freeman, I see that move, you know, and I think that you have to. Baseball is so situational, so that's what I'm trying to do. Watch more of is what's he doing. Think about the entirety of the situation. You know, we tend to think, oh, he's pitching well, leave him in. Yeah, but think about the situation. Who's the guy at the plate? I don't care if Freddie Freeman's 0 for 10 against Lorenzen in his career. He's a really good hitter.
Yep.
And why not take advantage? Why not bring an Amir Garrett in? You know, now you don't take out Iglesias in the bottom of the ninth for that situation, but in those situations. So I think he's stood up for his players in a couple instances. A couple other times he's come out to talk to the umpire when the batter isn't happy with the ball strike calls. I heard that on the radio a couple nights ago. I was driving and I heard bell went out, and I'm like, don't get yourself tossed.
Just last night, Winker struck out, and he was arguing about the called third strike, and up was coming back out. David Bell ran out.
Yeah,
okay, Winker back
exactly.
Away.
It was, you know, and so he seems like he is like completely in tune with every. And I'm not saying Riggleman or any other manager isn't following and paying attention to what's going on, but I don't think he's over-managing. I think maybe on cases in certain spots he's maybe over-managed a little bit, but I don't think – and I think that's a guy learning how to do that. And he's managed before, just never at the major league level. So he's figuring it out. And what do you do when you're a manager and your whole team can't hit? I mean, that's not your fault. When nobody can hit 200 right. And you're not scoring any runs, that's not your fault. I mean, you can only do so much with a lineup. Guys have to start hitting. Right. There's been talk about, is it Turner Ward's fault? Is he telling them to swing at more first pitches and all those things? So that goes into, you know, we were talking about, let's go back. Well, we'll come back to this. We got another question from Dalton, and we'll come back to that. But this sort of segues into this. So we were joking around on texting the other night, and John, our buddy John, says, he had his baseball theory of relative exit velocity. So he said the speed of the contacted pitch off the bat is indirectly proportional to the strikeout to walk ratio. The research in the Helmstein laboratories, which is Helmstein, as in Einstein, John Helmick, the Helmstein laboratories has shown that the free swingers, although they may have a harder swing, make solid contact with much lower percentage than do batters who know what to swing at and swing with a purpose. The first postulate of relative theory of exit velocity thus states, swinging with a purpose yields higher exit velocity. Then I said, well, that sort of correlates with the idea that there's been a whole bunch of stats out there up until, I don't know, this was 4 or 5 days ago, showing how the Reds are, if you look at down their lineup, everybody's swing percentage is, in terms of the number of pitches they swing at, is up anywhere from like 5 to 10% over a year ago. Mm-hmm. So as Turner Ward say, be aggressive, and have they taken that too far?
Pressing.
And they're pressing, and that's the other word I've heard. They're pressing, trying too hard to make things happen because the first 3 or 4 days didn't go very well of the season. And so that sort of fits in with sort of his thing. It's like, yeah, if you swing at the right pitches, you're going to hit the ball harder because you're going to make contact on some pitches you shouldn't swing at. What are you going to do?
And the Reds got
you're going to roll them over into ground balls and double plays and pop them up, right? Reds, what'd you say?
So they got good at that last year. And Peraza really became very selective up there, like Joey. And I think Joey kind of his approach was contagious on that team.
So I think that was an interesting way he put that, and I just thought that was kind of fun. John's layman's baseball theory of relative exit velocity, and somebody texted a picture of Albert Einstein. Was that you, Kim? That was kind of a gif of that. It was fun. So that's a little insight to the inner workings of the 3 Old Reds fans when we're sitting on our couches with nothing to do but watch the game.
Inner workings.
Yes, it's a scary place to be. All right, Dalton's other question for us is, what is everybody's favorite Red this year so far to watch as far as entertainment value? So,
for me, it ain't a hitter because there ain't been much hitting going on.
No. Puig's a little bit entertaining with a lot of stuff, but not he doesn't go to the top of the list.
For me, it's got to be Castillo and watching that changeup just completely fall off the table.
That's mine. That's mine too. What about you?
My pitcher is Bob Steve. That slider is just incredible.
So you get excited when he comes in the game?
Just based on where he was last year and the year before, and what we're seeing this year, yeah. And I will have an offensive player, Iglesias.
Yeah.
From what he can do in the field, so slick, so smooth. The plays he made, a couple of plays he made last night. And then, he's a career 270 hitter.
Yeah, he's
only 29. And he came to the Reds. And so when he comes in, I'm looking at Peraza, who played so well last year in the second half of the year, thinking he's going to keep going. And you got to sit there and say, okay, if I'm not playing well, this guy, Iglesias, I'm going to be the guy who plays 2 times a week instead of 5 times a week.
Raises everybody's level, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's a sense of urgency, and Mr. Bench will get you motivated.
Yes, he will. He will. And we ain't talking Johnny. Yeah, I'm with I like him. He's been fun to watch in the field. But Castillo, you've probably seen the numbers where he struck out more people with his changeup than anybody else has struck anybody else out with their best pitch in baseball this year. And it's just amazing. Every hitter in the world, when they got 2 strikes on them, they know it's coming. You know it's coming, but you can't hit it. I mean, that's amazing to me that you can be that. You can have a pitch that's that good that everybody knows you're going to throw it, and they miss it badly.
And he works so quickly.
Yeah.
He and Molly both, they work so quickly.
Well, the other night I had someplace to be and couldn't really watch, and he pitched, and that was like that's why it made me easy to answer this question to that, because I was like, oh man, if I could trade nights with something, because Castillo's pitching tonight, I really want to see Castillo pitch tonight. So that when I thought that and I saw this question, that's what cinched that for me, because I was bummed because I wasn't going to get to see him pitch. And he pitched well. I mean, gives up 8 hits in 6 innings and doesn't give up any runs. Now, he's got David Hernandez to thank for that, because he came in and struck out the side with the bases loaded. Somebody wrote a lead. I think it was like Mark Sheldon, I think, for MLB.com. His story was lead on his story was, or it might have been the guy from the Inquirer. I can't remember now. Was Luis Castillo got the win, but David Hernandez won the game. And so he did, because that inning could have gone all kinds of bad against a good hitting team.
Yes.
So that's what's interesting too. We shut down the Marlins. Gave them 1 run in 3 games. We took care of the Padres this week, and then we're facing the Braves and the Cardinals, 2 of the most feared lineups in the league, without a doubt. And you win 2 out of 3, and you hold them to 1 last night. Now we don't know what's going to happen today and tomorrow. They could lose both those games.
Mm-hmm. Don't say that.
But it's true. I don't think they will. I think they win. I think they get 2 or 3 at least. I think they find a way to get one of these next 2 games.
Cardinals have been tough for us for years. It'd be nice to this year.
Yeah,
get their number.
Would be. So, so here we are. What, 11, 14? What's that? 25 games into the season, and we hear the word sample size all the time, right? So my sample size theory is this: how we buy in on a small sample size tends to be affected by how much we like the player. Does that make sense? So when a guy's not hitting well, if we're not really into him, we really
send him down,
kick him out, release him, put him on the bench. But when it's a guy we really like,
give him more time.
It's a small sample size, guys. But when it's when it's a pitch, same with pitchers. Well, okay,
he had a bad night.
But if we don't really like him that much, or we're not sold on him, then we, So anyway, that's my sample size theory. What do you think of that theory?
I think it's right on.
Think it's right on?
Mm-hmm.
So is there a guy that fits that mold for us or most Reds fans as a guy who, even though it's a small sample size, we're like, get rid of him? Who's the obvious example of that this year?
I know what Twitter's going to say.
What? Shebs?
Yeah.
And before he got hurt, Kemp. I think Kemp was in that boat too.
You think?
I think Kemp would be, just because when we picked him up, and we talked about this during the offseason, is we would not be surprised to see him be traded.
Exactly.
And so I think that goes into it with Kemp.
Yeah. And I think they didn't because they knew they weren't going to keep Senzel up. I think that's possibly that's just my speculation.
I would say if Senzel wouldn't have gotten hurt, he'd be up by now.
He would be. Yeah, I think he would be. I think they would have brought him up by now because the offense has been so porous. So I think that is true, and I think the other side, we had anybody really tearing up the ball, so it's hard to say. There's a guy we're all fired up about hitting the ball. I mean, we are happy about Jose Iglesias still, because the glove is not going away. We know that he's hit well enough and probably better than some expected, but it's too early to get. Honestly, it's really too early to get excited and say he's going to hit 270 all year, because he might not, but he might.
But he's played 8 years before this season, and he's hit 270. So I think you know pretty much what you have with him.
Yeah. Okay. So his career batting average is it exactly 270?
I think so.
You're right. Going in, it is exactly 270. He's hitting 284 this year. 284.
Peraza hit 270 last year.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he hit well over that.
Yeah, he did very well.
Not though. The on base percentage wasn't anything tremendous.
It
was right about average. It was right about average. Yeah, because he still doesn't walk much. He got his first walk like this week.
Well, that was the probably 11:45 at night, right?
Yeah, when you guys were in bed and I was up working, doing some stuff and watching. So anyway, so that's some other stuff. Okay, so favorite Red to watch, Castillo. Who did you pick?
Bob Steve.
I said
you said Bob
Steve
and
and
Iglesias.
I had a pitcher and a position.
Pitcher and a position player. And if I had to pick a position player right now, it's probably Puig, because I want to see him do stuff. I'm when he comes to bat, I'm paying more attention because I'm expecting him to go crazy at some point and have a big hot streak. I think that's probably why I would say that. Defensively, it's Iglesias, but pitching, for me, it's Castillo. He's just so much fun to watch.
I get more jacked when the ball's in right field and he's picking it up, and there's a chance a guy could be rounding a base.
Yeah,
that arm is just phenomenal.
Yeah, it is. He's got style out there. There's no doubt about that. So at some point we all might be like, I can't take this guy anymore. But at this point, that's the way we are. The Dodger fans loved him. He got a great greeting when he went out there. Of course, then he hit that home run off Kershaw in his first at bat, which was incredible.
Epic.
Which was incredible theater. But the fans loved him. The team got a little tired of him. So, okay, all right. This is episode 39. Reds who've worn number 39.
Mesoraco.
Devin Mesoraco.
Did what's his name? The pitcher Harang.
Aaron Harang.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I can't think of anybody.
All right. So, Pedro Martinez in 1996. Not that Pedro Martinez. It's a different one.
Pedro?
Not that one. Some guy, Pedro Martinez, who pitched in the major leagues for from 1993 through 1997, and made pitched in 122 games, made one start. His name was Pedro Martinez. He's from the Dominican.
I'm glad we're picking people that are well known.
And he wore number 39. I just wanted to throw that out there. See, I wanted to get you. I was hoping you guys would be like, "What? I don't remember him playing for the Reds." Well, that's right, because he never did. Not the Pedro Martinez. The Cobra.
Oh, man. How can we forget that?
Dave Parker. All right. And member of the Reds' Big Red Machine bullpen.
Bullpen?
Yeah.
Will McEnany, Raleigh Eastwick.
Raleigh Eastwick. And a guy who played for the Reds.
I thought you had
a guy who played for the Reds that you heard more than you ever. You probably never saw him pitch, but you heard him a lot.
Joe Nuxall.
Joe Nuxall was number 39 for like 8 years. I think I saw. He wore that number.
Was 39?
That's what it said. Now, was he always 39?
I thought he was 45.
Well, let's look and see.
I do not remember. That's so long
if I
ago.
call him up, it will tell. He only wore that number in 1974. So he also wore number 49. So he wore 39 in 74. He wore 49 from 74 to 77, which is what you remember. And then he went to the Cardinals. He pitched for the Yankees. He pitched for the Phillies.
Wow.
Pitched for the Royals. And finally the Cubs in 81. So he bounced around after that. But yeah, so 49 is probably the number you would remember. But he wore number 39 for one season.
His career ERAs.
3.31.
For a reliever.
Pretty good. Pretty good for a career. Yeah, it's hard. ERA is kind of a tough stat to really measure a reliever on during a season because, one bad outing can, you can have 12 great outings and one really bad one, and it really inflates. But over a long career, it's a little more helpful number. But so yeah, there you go. And he didn't exceed his rookie limits until 75. So in 74, he really wouldn't. It was probably a late season call up or something. He only pitched in 8 games, so it was probably late season. Next year, he wore the number 49, and he was 3rd in the Rookie of the Year voting. So he was actually 5th in the Cy Young Award voting in 1976 and 13th in the MVP voting. He had 26 saves, which was a lot of saves at that time, and he threw over 100 innings. So
with people having complete games.
With a 2.09 ERA, 107 innings, and 26 saves, that's about as good as it got back then. So, yeah, he was good. Good. So, what do you think the next month holds? It might, because I'm going to be out of town here for a couple weeks, and then it's going to be close to June, if not the first part of June, before we have a chance to do this again. So, where are we going to be? Are we going to be over 500 the next time we talk?
I don't know if we'll be over 500. I think we'll be right about at 500.
So right now we're almost there. We're 3 under.
Which means if we're at 500 a month from now, we've had a good month. Right.
3 games over. Pretty good. Not great, but serviceable. What do you think? You think we'll be over 500?
What's our schedule look like?
Oh.
We're still away, right?
Man, you got to go to the schedule.
You said
you got to go to the schedule? You don't just believe they're going to be great?
I'm
just kidding you. I can tell you. I had it right here.
I don't want any home games in Mexico again.
No. Well, we won one of those. Okay, so in May, let's see, where are we here? So right now we're in St. Louis, and we're going to go play 4 games against the Mets.
Going to Citi Field? Okay.
Yep. And then
we luck out because isn't DeGrom hurt or Thor hurt? One of those.
Well,
two?
yeah, I think so. Then we come home for 4 games against the Giants. Those are winnable. Mm-hmm. Then we go to Oakland and San Francisco for a pair of 3-game series. Then we come home and play the Cubs and the Dodgers. Then we have an off day. This is a weird week. They're off on Monday the 20th, and they go to Milwaukee for 2 games. Then they're off on the 23rd. on Thursday. Then they go to Chicago for 3. And then they come home and they doubleheader with Pittsburgh because they got to make up that game. So it's a 4-game set with Pittsburgh. And then
in June yet?
No. May 31st, we start a home series that goes over the weekend with the Nats. So between now and June 2nd, it's Mets, finishing with the Cardinals, Mets, Giants twice, home and away. At Oakland, Cubs and Dodgers at home. We go to Milwaukee, then we go to the Cubs, then we got the Pirates at home, then we get the Nationals.
At least the Brewers are only 2 games.
Yeah, and they're not playing that great right now. So I think there's
I'm hoping for at least 500 to answer your question.
Yeah, I think they can be there. Heck, if they win the next 2 days, they'll only be 2 games out of first.
Yep.
Because the Cardinals are 4 games up
Crazy.
right now. So
11-14.
Yeah, well, that's an early season thing, right? If you're 11-4, if you're 3 games under in August, you're out of it. But 3 games under in April, you're fine. So I think I'll go out on the limb. I think they will be. I think they'll be a shade over, maybe a couple games over. I think there's every possibility.
Well,
of that.
I mean, there's a possibility everybody gets hot, right? Joey starts hitting normal.
And there you go. There's that back to that sample size thing. We're like, oh, the pitching, the hitting's got to get better.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the pitching's good, but it's only been a month.
You could argue the pitching has got to get worse.
Right. Law of averages.
Law of averages of pitching is probably not, at the end of the season, our starter ERA probably is not going to be 3.01. It's probably going to be a little higher. Now, as long as it doesn't implode, we're fine. But if the hitting gets better, the pitching could get a little worse, and we're okay. But, Castillo probably will not finish the season with a 1.23 ERA. It'll probably maybe 2.23, but probably not 1.23.
We take that in a heartbeat.
I'd take 2.23 every day of the week. So anyway, all right. So when we get back here, early June, end of May, early June, we will see where they stand, and that'll be interesting to talk about. So, all right. Anything else? Anything else you want to talk about? We don't want to talk about the Bengals in the draft, or the Jets in the draft.
This is old Reds fans, not old Bengals fans.
So, anything? No? All right. Well, let's wrap it up.
So next time we come back, we'll have Senzel on the roster.
Yes.
If we don't, it's because of an injury and nothing else.
Yes. And if it's not, there'll be...
I don't know about that.
If it's not...
All right, let's make it a little more interesting. June 1. I say yes, he will be on the roster.
Oh yeah, I think he'll be on the roster before that. I think he'll be on the roster in about a week.
Do you really?
I was thinking 2 weeks.
I think about a week.
Yeah, I mean you can't expect the hitting to get better that quick, so they'll probably have to do something.
Yeah, that's my expectation.
I mean, you bring up a good point because he's been hitting the ball in the rookie league in Arizona for 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah,
and now they're going to have him play, let's say 6 to 10 games in Louisville and get him acclimated to an actual game ballpark and everything. I just said 2 weeks, but I could see it being a week.
I think so. So
if everybody gets hot.
So think about it.
If everybody gets hot, then he won't be, right?
Yeah, they're not going to get that hot. So this is a way to think about it too. They're going. Here's what I predict. May 14th, when they come home from the West Coast against the Cubs. What do you think? May 14th, when they come home against the Cubs.
Well, that's more than a week.
I know, but I'm looking at the travel schedule. Do they fly him out to California to get started? Maybe they do. Maybe they want. If they want to start him on the road, they might.
Aren't they going to carry an extra pitcher before that doubleheader with Pittsburgh?
You know what, Jeff?
But I would say May 14th is the last. No later than May 14th, but
Two ballparks
possibly sooner.
That are huge.
San Fran and Oakland. Yeah. You might want him in center field. There you go. All right. Well, if you listen to the end of this, now you know what's going to happen. If you left us, then, too bad for you. So.
Too bad, so sad.
Yes. All right. Well, may the month of May be kind to the Reds. And this has
and
been
the balance of April.
And the balance of April, which is what, a couple days, 3 or 4 days, I guess. So this has been the Three Old Reds fans. And now for our exciting finish. 1, 2, 3. Go Reds!